Daniel in the lion's den, a test of faithfulness and divine deliverance. In the 3rd year of Jehoiakim king of Judah, Nebuchadnezzar king of Babylon came to Jerusalem and besieged it. Among the captured was Daniel, a young man who would prove to be a faithful servant of the Most High God even in the exile of Babylon. Under King Darius, Daniel arose as a favored administrator, distinguished by his wisdom and integrity, reflecting the light of his God amidst the shadows of a foreign court. Yet, devoted as he was, he faced peril as the whispers of jealousy arose from his peers, intent on exposing his unswerving faith in Yahweh. In the opulent courts of Babylon, the air was electric with conspiracy. The rulers, envious of Daniel's influence over Darius, schemed with sinister intent. They approached the king, flattering him with a proposal, to issue a decree proclaiming that for 30 days no prayers be made to any god or man other than King Darius. The deceit appealed to Darius's pride, and he sealed their plot with a royal edict, unaware of the fate that would soon ensue. As twilight descended upon Babylon's skyline, Daniel returned to his chamber, his heart heavy yet resolute. He knew of the decree yet faced the window east towards Jerusalem, where the temple of his God once stood. He knelt, just as he had done thrice each day, pouring out his heart in prayer and supplication. "O Lord, hear the cry of your faithful servant," he whispered, longing for the restoration of his people and the holiness of God's name to be upheld amidst the tide of pagan worship. His prayers echoed like a lifeline thrown into a sea of darkness. At dawn, the conspirators seized their moment. They crept near Daniel's dwelling, catching him in the act of praying. With triumphant glee, they raced to the king with their accusation, taunting, "Daniel, who pays no heed to you or your law, continues to pray to his God." Darius's heart sank as the weight of betrayal washed over him. He had inadvertently led his faithful servant to ruin. Though he searched for a way to save Daniel, the Medes and Persians' law, unyielding and binding, left him powerless. Thus, he gave the order that Daniel be cast into the lion's den, grieving the loss of a man he had grown to trust. A great stone was rolled over the entrance, sealing Daniel's fate. The king fastened it with his own signet, but as nightfall enveloped Babylon, Darius slipped into unrest. He leaned against the cold stone, haunted by the thought of Daniel amidst the roar of hunger. Could the God whom he served save him? The king mused, recalling how Daniel's faith illuminated the shadowy court. Before we continue with this incredible biblical account, I want to make sure you don't miss any of these powerful scripture stories. Click the bell icon and select all notifications. These biblical narratives have transformed countless lives throughout history. If God's word through this story is blessing you, please like and share with someone who needs to hear about God's faithfulness today. Tell me in the comments, which biblical story has most impacted your faith journey? I'm always amazed how God's word speaks to hearts across generations. Now let's continue with what the Lord did next. As the dawn broke over the horizon, a profound hush fell over the kingdom. Darius hurried to the lion's den, his heart racing with hope and dread. "Daniel, servant of the living God, has your God whom you serve continually been able to deliver you from the lions?" His voice trembled in the air, thick with anticipation. A voice, steady yet filled with divine assurance, resonated back, echoing through the depths, "O King, live forever. My God sent his angel, and he shut the lions' mouths." In that moment, the tension of despair shattered, unveiling the unmistakable hand of God. The king's heart burst forth with joy and astonishment, and all of Babylon would witness the miraculous power of the true God, a powerful precursor to the unfolding of hope yet to be revealed in the eternal narrative of faith. The stage was set, and as the story of Daniel transcended time, it beckoned forth the promise of divine deliverance awaiting all who trust in the Lord. In the aftermath of Daniel's deliverance, a great commotion spread throughout Babylon. The king summoned the satraps and governors who had conspired against Daniel, their faces stricken with fear. Darius, filled with righteous indignation, commanded, "Bring those men before me." With their heads bowed in shame, they stood trembling, knowing the uncertainty of their fates was now in the hands of the sovereign. "Because you have sought to dishonor the servant of the Most High," Darius declared, his voice echoing against the cold stone walls, "you shall be cast into the very lion's den that you prepared for him." And so, with a swift and fearful justice, the conspirators were seized, and along with them, their families, for the laws of Babylon held no mercy for treachery. As the stone was rolled away once more, the fearful cries of the accusers mingled with the echoes of Daniel's miraculous salvation. The lions roared with hunger, yet Daniel stood unharmed, his countenance aglow as the bright light of God's favor remained upon him. King Darius, witnessing the powerful demonstration of God's might, proclaimed, to all peoples, nations, and languages that dwell in all the earth, peace be multiplied to you. I make a decree that in every dominion of my kingdom, men must tremble and fear before the God of Daniel. For he is the living God, and steadfast forever, his kingdom is one which shall not be destroyed, and his dominion shall endure to the end. As news of Daniel's deliverance spread like wildfire through the city, the people marveled at the undeniable power of Yahweh. They were compelled by testimonies of faith and miraculous signs, reflecting on the wondrous works of a God who saves. Yet as time passed, the hearts of the Babylonian court were not easily moved. Even in the glow of divine deliverance, doubt still took root among some. They exchanged hurried whispers, contemplating their desires for power and the risk that faith in Daniel's God inspired. Beneath veils of loyalty, opposition simmered, and conspiracies remained. Meanwhile, Daniel returned to his service, his faith fortified by the angelic visitation and the mighty hand of God. His spirit soared with renewed purpose, knowing that his life, like that of his people, was woven into a divine tapestry of hope and fulfillment. That I in the quiet of his chamber, Daniel sought the Lord with fervent prayer, pleading for insight regarding the visions that had haunted his dreams, visions not merely for his time, but bearing witness to events yet unfolding in the days to come. As he interceded, a profound weariness washed over him, and sleep seized him, drawing him into a realm where divine secrets whispered in the stillness. Upon awakening, visions of majestic beasts and celestial beings flooded his mind, each a testament to the sovereign reign of God over kingdoms and empires. Through it all, the eternal promise of restoration and a coming Redeemer danced upon the edges of his understanding, stirring a holy anticipation. Alas, O Lord, Daniel cried out, what shall be the end of these wonders? But the angelic messenger, appearing once more, comforted him with words veiled in prophetic mystery. The vision is for the appointed time, remain steadfast, for the end is yet to come, and those who endure shall witness the fulfillment of all that has been declared. As the day dawned anew, a deep enchantment lingered in the air, for the destiny of nations and the hearts of men rested under the sovereign hand of the Almighty, waiting for the day when all creation would behold the fullness of his glory. The stage was set for a greater revelation, a promise echoing in the depths of time, beckoning the faithful to watch and pray, for surely, the time had not yet come for God's ultimate purpose to be revealed. In the days that followed Daniel's extraordinary deliverance, the spirit of the kingdom was charged with anticipation. Yet shadows lurked, for the court of Babylon was not without its intrigues. Underneath the awe inspired by Daniel's God, the conspirators vowed to reassert their influence, stitching together plots born of envy and ambition. One such man, Gobel, a satrap of great ambition and cunning, stirred discontent among his peers. What has become of our power? He demanded, his voice a whisper that spread like smoke in the dark corners of the halls. Shall we continue to bow low before the God of Daniel while our own fortunes dwindle? We must act. We can no longer remain idle. The others murmured in agreement, their hearts hardened against the God who had demonstrated his mercy through Daniel. Let us devise a scheme, a law that mandates worship of our own devising, one that will surely ensnare him, one declared, emboldened by the shroud of secrecy, and so they conspired to create a decree that would entice the king to honor false gods, binding him to their insidious desires. They approached Darius once more, saying, O king, live forever. Establish an edict that for 30 days, any man who prays to any god or human, except for you, O king, shall be cast into the den of lions. The king, not perceiving the treachery in their words, agreed. With the seal of his authority set upon the document, the edict reverberated through Babylon. The satraps rejoiced, for they believed they had ensnared Daniel in the snare of their own design, yet Daniel, steadfast and unwavering in his love for the Lord, remained undaunted. As was his custom, he continued to pray 3 times a day, lifting his face toward Jerusalem with the trust that had maintained his resolve amid trials. His prayers echoed in the heavens, crying out for understanding and strength, fulfilling the ancient calling to seek the face of the Lord. 1 Kings 8 verse 38, the conspirators, lurking in the shadows, spied upon him, their hearts gleeful in malice. Look! The man who cannot be swayed still prays to his God, they proclaimed, returning to the king with the evidence of Daniel's allegiance. Your edict is broken, and the law stands defiled. Their voices were full of triumph, and they pressed upon Darius, who realized too late the weight of the judgment that awaited Daniel. With great sorrow, the king sought to save Daniel, but the law was absolute. Darius relented, commanding him to be brought forth. Bound and silent before the den, Daniel was cast in, the stone sealed upon him, and the light of hope flickered in the eyes of his people. As night descended, Darius could not rest. He fasted and lay awake, wrestling with the futility of human schemes against the sovereignty of the Almighty. The dawn broke, and with it came his heart laden with anxiety. Rising, he hurried to the lion's den, his heart racing. O Daniel, servant of the living God, has your God, whom you serve continually, been able to deliver you from the lions? To his astonishment, a voice emerged from the depths of the den, clear and unbroken. O King, live forever. My God sent his angel and shut the lion's mouths, for I was found blameless before him. Darius rejoiced. An overwhelming awe filled him as he commanded that Daniel be lifted from the den. No harm had befallen him, God's faithful servant stood unharmed, a testament to the power of obedience and faith, and in that moment, a new decree went forth, echoing Darius's proclamation of faith in Daniel's God. By the orders of the king, all must fear and tremble before the God of Daniel. For he is the living God and endures forever. Within a tapestry of intrigue and faith, a divine plan unfolded, whispering of a greater redemption yet to come. For even as nations rise and fall, the Creator's purpose shall prevail, revealing the ultimate promise in the coming of his Son, and the hearts of many shall be gathered unto him. What shall unfold in the days ahead, and how shall the faithful witness the culmination of divine mysteries? The answer awaits. As the sun rose over Babylon, its golden light bathed the city in warmth, but in the heart of King Darius, a tempest churned. He had witnessed the miraculous preservation of Daniel, a man favored by the heavens, and now his heart was torn between past allegiances and the unfolding truth of the living God. All the inhabitants of Babylon were commanded to tremble before the God who had delivered Daniel, yet the satraps who had conspired against him discreetly plotted their next move, a plan woven with treachery. In the days that followed, Daniel remained steadfast, walking among the people, teaching them of the Creator who could deliver from both temporal and eternal peril. His countenance shone with a divine light that sparked curiosity and reverence in many hearts. Seek the Lord while he may be found, he would say, his voice echoing like a resounding bell, calling the wayward back to the paths of righteousness. Yet in the dark corners of the palace, Gobel and his conspirators seethed with resentment. This man has grown too powerful. Gobel hissed in the shadows. We must eradicate not only the man but the very essence that makes him invincible, his God. Let us create confusion and division among the people. With cunning words, he rallied support from disillusioned citizens who coveted power over truth. Let us twist the king's heart against Daniel, pretending loyalty while planting seeds of doubt, another conspirator suggested, eager to partake in the treachery. They arranged to infiltrate gatherings where the words of Daniel were discussed, sowing division and deceit, whispering, "Why should we suffer for the God of Daniel? Has he not led us into Babylonian bondage?" News of this insidious plotting reached Daniel through a young servant who had come to admire him. The boy, trembling with fear and loyalty, spoke of the darkness threatening Daniel's influence. With tenderness, Daniel encouraged him, saying, "Fear not, for the God who has saved me is greater than any plotting of man. Remember the words of Jeremiah's, 'Call to me, and I will answer you, and show you great and mighty things, which you do not know.' Jeremiah 33 verse 3. Trust in him." As the sun set upon the city, a darkness crept upon the land, a shadow of uncertainty lingering on the hearts of those swayed by the whispers of the conspirators. But Daniel continued to call the people to prayer and unity, urging them to seek the face of God. The God who had shut the mouths of lions would not abandon his people. Meanwhile, Darius grappled with his new edict. Each day he witnessed the faith of his servant and felt a profound turmoil within his spirit. Though he had decreed the worship of himself as paramount, deep within, he hesitated, sensing a greater authority at work. Was it truly wise to exalt a mere man? He sought counsel but found spies instead of friends, those who would lead him astray. One evening, as he strolled among the royal gardens under a veil of stars, his heart was drawn to thoughts of the God of Daniel. What if, he mused, this God is indeed the sovereign Lord? Yet the fear of loss bound him, and the conspirators watched closely, their eyes gleaming with the promise of power. In the quiet chambers of prayer, Daniel continued to intercede for his king and for the nation, his heart steadfast in the knowledge that the hand of God was upon him. His prayers became a fragrance rising to the heavens, invoking divine favor and paving the way for revelations yet to come. For the Almighty God of Israel was orchestrating events beyond human understanding, and so it was that the stage was set, not just for Daniel's continued faithfulness, but for an unveiling of God's eternal plan. Little did Darius and the conspirators know, they were positioned as pieces upon a divine chessboard. Soon, the very foundations of their efforts would be shaken, and from their schemes, the true glory of God would shine forth mightily. What revelations awaited, and how would they intertwine with the promise of the coming Redeemer? The dawn of a great mystery was on the horizon. In the days that followed, the tension in Babylon grew palpable, thickened by the scheming of the conspirators. Whispers and murmurs filled the streets like an ominous wind, carrying doubts and fears among the populace. Yet, amidst this growing strife, Daniel remained unwavering. He would rise every morning before the dawn, lifting his voice in prayer, seeking the will of the Almighty, whose vastness spanned far beyond the craftiness of man. As he continued to teach, the hearts of some began to awaken to truth. The Lord is my light and my salvation, whom shall I fear? He proclaimed, quoting the psalmist. Many who once stood aloof now gathered around him, drawn by the hope of something greater than the deceit of Gobal's treachery. They too began to press into prayer, united in their pursuit of the living God, yet the conspirators, emboldened by secrecy, intensified their plans. Gobal and his allies approached Darius with feigned sincerity, bowing low before him. O king, live forever. Let it be decreed that for 30 days, no one may pray to any god or man except you, they proposed, concealing their wicked intent. Who would dare to defy the crown? They added, knowing that such a decree would inevitably entrap Daniel. Darius, ensnared by vanity and flattery, consented to the edict. As the royal decree was sealed with his signet ring, a shadow of regret crossed his face, yet pride outweighed his conscience. The conspirators reveled in their deceit, believing they had cornered the faithful servant of the Most High. When Daniel learned of the decree, he felt the cool chill of peril wrap around him, yet he was resolute. My God is my refuge and strength, a very present help in trouble, he proclaimed Psalm 46 verse 1 to his inward fears. Without hesitation, he returned to his home, as was his custom, 3 times a day to pray and give thanks. Even as peril loomed, he could not forsake the one who had sustained him through the lion's den. Meanwhile, the conspirators lay in wait, ever watchful. They peered through the windows, witnessing Daniel in the act of prayer, his face turned toward the heavens, his heart communing with God. They rushed to the king, eager to expose their opponent. O king, we have found your servant Daniel, he who prays 3 times a day, defying your decree. They bellowed, their voices dripping with malice. Darius's heart sank, for he understood all too well the implications of their words. The king had been trapped by his own proclamation. I cannot revoke the law, he lamented, his voice heavy with regret. In that moment, the king's spirit was torn. He had grown fond of Daniel and understood the righteousness of the man he had condemned. He labored throughout the day to find a loophole, but the decree stood firm. A law of the Medes and Persians could not be altered. So it was that as the sun sank beyond the horizon, a profound silence fell upon the kingdom, each soul sensing the weight of the impending doom. Darius, filled with anguish, commanded that Daniel be brought to him. As they led him away, Daniel went without a protest, for he trusted his God. A calm confidence enveloped him, knowing that the God who had delivered him before would deliver him again. May your God, whom you serve continually, rescue you, Darius murmured, as they cast him into the den of lions. The king's heart was all the more troubled, for he was torn between his duty as ruler and his respect for the prophet. Then as the stone was rolled over the entrance of the den, King Darius returned to his palace, a deep sorrow ingrained within him. He could not eat nor find rest, for his thoughts were consumed by the man of God. That night, as the lions prowled in their dark abode, a silence interrupted only by the rustling of their fur enveloped Daniel, yet a greater silence reigned, a divine presence. Little did Darius know that God was already at work, and a miracle awaited. The dawn would reveal the glory of the Almighty, for every act of treachery uncovered a greater means by which God could manifest his power, and thus the pieces of the divine plan began to align. What miraculous manifestation would emerge from this trial, and how would it echo through the ages as a testimony of God's unfailing faithfulness? Time would reveal the intertwining of divine providence and the fulfillment of promises in ways that would shatter the darkness engulfing Babylon. As the first light of dawn broke over Babylon, illuminating the stone face of the den where Daniel lay, a hush fell over the city. The faithful captive felt the heavy silence, but within it, a profound peace enveloped him, for he knew the Lord was near, sustaining his heart in the midst of peril. Then, in the early morning hours, King Darius stirred from a troubled sleep, his dreams haunted by images of Daniel's steadfast faith. He could not shake the urgency that drove him to the den. Fear and hope battled within him. He could not abandon the man of God through whom he had seen the power of the Most High. With a heart pounding in his chest, Darius raced to the site of judgment, urgency propelling him forward. Arriving at the lioness' den, he called out in a voice that trembled with desperation, "O Daniel, servant of the living God, has your God, whom you serve continually, been able to deliver you from the lions?" His words echoed through the still air, beseeching the heavens for an answer. And in that moment, the voice of Daniel rang forth, clear and strong, cutting through the shadow of death. "O King, live forever. My God sent his angel and shut the lions' mouths. They have not harmed me, for I have been found innocent in his sight. And also, before you, O King, I have done no wrong." His words resounded with divine assurance, a testimony to the faith of a servant who had staked everything on his trust in God. King Darius, elation washing over his countenance, exclaimed, "Bring Daniel up out of the den." The men rushed to obey, for the word of the king was law. As Daniel was lifted from the depths, he stood unstained, untouched by the ferocity of the beasts. Then the king, filled with righteous indignation, turned to the conspirators who had sought Daniel's demise. "Bring those men who accused Daniel," he commanded, and their hearts trembled as they awaited their fate. The king then decreed that they be thrown into the very den intended for Daniel, and as they were cast within, the lions leaped upon them, a ferocious reminder of God's protection over his faithful servant. Darius, overwhelmed by what he had witnessed, issued a new decree to all the peoples, nations, and languages of the earth. "May you tremble in fear before the God of Daniel. For he is the living God, enduring forever, his kingdom shall never be destroyed, and his dominion shall be to the end." The king proclaimed the miracles of God, how he had saved Daniel from the jaws of death and displayed his power over the plans of men. The sun rose higher, the words of the king spread throughout Babylon, instilling a new reverence for the God of Israel. Daniel's faith became a beacon of hope, illuminating the path for many. He was not merely a survivor but a testimony of divine salvation that would ripple through generations, a reflection of God's everlasting covenant with his people. Amidst the praises sung, whispers of prophecy lingered in the air. The faith of Daniel heralded an even greater deliverance, the coming of the Messiah, who would rescue not only from physical peril but from the grasp of sin and death itself. Yet little did they know, the tapestry of heaven was being woven further still. What new revelations awaited? What glories would unfold in the time appointed by the Lord? For the stage was set, and the echoes of Daniel's deliverance would herald the great and terrible day of the Lord. And so it came to pass that Daniel was established in his place of honor within the court of Babylon. The king recognized the wisdom of his servant, and as time went on, Daniel continued to rise in authority. His heart remained steadfast, turning towards the God of his fathers thrice daily in prayer, a witness to the people and a beacon of hope amidst the darkness surrounding him. The days turned into weeks, and the words of King Darius traveled far and wide, reaching the ears of rulers and citizens alike. The decree inspired awe among the nations, lifting the name of the Lord above all others. There were whispers, however, of unrest among those who clung to their idols and traditional practices, religions threatened by the power of the God of Israel. In the hidden corners of the city, conspirators plotted yet again, seeking to dismantle the reverence gained by Daniel and his God. "Let us devise a scheme," they whispered, "to ensnare him once more. We shall take advantage of his devotion." And they approached Darius with a cunning proposal. "Establish a decree that for 30 days, no prayer may be offered to any god or man except to you, O king." Flattered, Darius, blinded by pride, affixed his seal to the unalterable law. Unperturbed by the decree, Daniel continued in his customary way, unafraid to declare his faith. 3 times a day, he opened his window toward Jerusalem, and he prayed to the God of Israel. The conspirators watched in ready anticipation, waiting for the moment they could report him to the king, entrap him in the very law he refused to obey. Their hearts were filled with malignant delight as they returned to the king, proclaiming, "O King Darius, your servant Daniel disregards the decree, for he prays to the God of Israel." The king's face fell, recognizing the folly in his earlier command. "He has been loyal, yet I am bound by the law I established." The king, full of anguish, labored until sunset in an attempt to save Daniel, but the conspirators pressed for justice, demanding the execution of their enemy. With a heavy heart, Darius had no choice but to order Daniel cast into the den of lions once more, lamenting, "May your God, whom you serve continually, deliver you." As the stone was rolled across the den's entrance, Darius spent a sleepless night, fasting and filled with dread. But while the king mourned for his servant, Daniel remained resolute, filled with the peace that surpasses all understanding. The dawn came upon Babylon with a quiet stillness, yet King Darius, rising early, hurried to the den and cried out in a trembling voice, "O Daniel, has your God been able to deliver you from the lions?" And lo, the voice of Daniel emerged from the darkness, proclaiming, "O king, live forever. My God sent his angel and shut the lions' mouths. They have not hurt me, because I was found innocent in his sight." Rejoicing, Darius commanded that Daniel be raised from the den. The king was filled with amazement, and he declared with renewed fervor, "The God of Daniel is to be revered, his kingdom endures forever." As news spread of Daniel's deliverance, hearts were turned toward the Lord, and many came to know the truth of the living God. Yet in the shadows, the spirit of rebellion persisted, plotting against the people of the Most High. The promises of God lingered like a flame, illuminating the path for generations to come, for the time approached when deliverance would be known not just in Babylon, but globally through the very Messiah they awaited. What new trials awaited the faithful? What revelations were hidden just beyond the horizon? For though deliverance had been granted, the story was not yet complete. The ink of God's sovereign plan was still being written in the annals of time. And it came to pass that Darius, having witnessed the wonders of the God of Daniel, issued another decree throughout his realm, proclaiming, "To all peoples, nations, and languages that dwell in all the earth, peace be multiplied to you. It is decreed that in every dominion of my kingdom men must tremble and fear before the God of Daniel, for he is the living God and steadfast forever. His kingdom is one which shall not be destroyed, and his dominion shall endure to the end." Thus did the name of the Lord rise in glory among the nations, for Darius' proclamation spread like wildfire. Many among the Babylonians began to confess, "Truly, the God of Daniel is the true God," sparking a revival among the lost. Yet, beneath the surface of this new acceptance, the seeds of dissent continued to fester, for the conspirators, embittered by the king's turn of heart, plotted a new course of action. Meanwhile, Daniel remained in the court, his wisdom and vision serving as a lamp unto the people. His gift of interpreting dreams flourished, and he sought the Lord in fervent prayer. In those still moments, he was granted visions of great significance, visions of a time yet to come, a future where empires would rise and fall, where the final stone would be hewn not by human hands but by the divine purpose of the Almighty. In the quiet watch of the night, Daniel was visited by the angel Gabriel, whose countenance shone like the sun. The angel opened the revelations and spoke, "O Daniel, man greatly beloved, understand the words that I speak unto thee. The time of fulfillment draws nigh, and great tribulations will come upon the earth. Yet behold, at the end of these days shall arise the Son of Man, coming with the clouds of heaven, bringing justice to all nations. He shall reign on the throne of David, and his kingdom shall know no end." With this vision, Daniel's spirit was filled with both dread and hope, for he knew that these were not merely dreams but divine truths whispering the destiny of both Israel and the world. He fell upon his face, praying, "O Lord, how shall your will be accomplished? What are the signs of this coming?" Gabriel replied, "The signs will be many, and the faithful must remain steadfast in their faith. The days will grow darker, and tribulation shall come. But those who endure to the end shall see the glory of the Lord revealed in power and might." The conspirators, unaware of the deeper cosmic battle unfolding, continued to manipulate circumstances against Daniel. They sought to instill fear in the hearts of the people against the God of Israel, not knowing that every effort served but to advance God's sovereign plan. As winds of change swept through Babylon, a sense of urgency enveloped Daniel. He sensed that the clock of God's plan was ticking, each moment closer to the fulfillment of prophecy. He firmly resolved in his heart to remain watchful, praying for understanding and strength amid the trials destined to come. Thus, the tension grew, both within the heart of Daniel and the court of Darius. Would the faith of Daniel withstand the impending storms? And how would the hand of God reveal itself in the face of wrath and rebellion? For the time drew near, and the whispers of God's sovereign plan were echoing through the corridors of time. The world awaited a reckoning, a divine sign that would transcend nations, a transformation that would unveil the power of the Most High and lead many to the everlasting hope found only in Him. And it came to pass, as Daniel sought the Lord with fervent prayer, the conspirators gathered in secret, their hearts darkened by hatred. They devised a scheme to ensnare Daniel, knowing that his unwavering devotion to his God would be his ultimate trial. They spoke among themselves, saying, "Let us establish a royal edict, that for 30 days, no man shall ask a petition of any god or any man, save the king alone. Thus, we shall trap Daniel in his faithfulness, and he will be as a lion among us." With deceit as their weapon, they approached the king, flattering him with words, "O King Darius, live forever. Establish a royal decree, and let it be signed by the Medes and Persians, that it be not changed." The king, blinded by pride, consented without knowledge of the plot, and the decree was sealed. When Daniel learned that the writing was signed, he did not retreat into fear but fervently continued to pray as he had done before, 3 times a day, facing Jerusalem. His posture remained steadfast, and with each prayer, his heart cried out to the Lord, steadfast and unwavering, for he knew that God required faithfulness above all. Now, as the conspirators lay in wait, they watched Daniel pray, and they rushed to the king, their malicious glee evident in every step. They spoke, "O king, did you not sign a decree that every man who makes a petition to any god or man, save you, shall be thrown into the den of lions?" The king, struck with deep sorrow, realized the treachery, yet the law stood firm, and he was bound by his own decree. Knowing the weight of what was to come, Darius labored to rescue Daniel, but to no avail. At sundown, he was forced to command that Daniel be cast into the den of lions. As they led Daniel to the mouth of the den, the king addressed him, his heart heavy, saying, "Your God whom you serve continually, he will deliver you." With those words, Daniel was cast, and a stone was rolled over the entrance, sealing him within the darkness. Throughout the night, the king fasted and found no comfort. He could not sleep for longing after Daniel, who remained in the den, enveloped by the shadows of certain death. But in the midst of his despair, as the dawn approached, the Lord sent his angel, a messenger of hope, who stood guard over Daniel with a heavenly light. As the first rays of morning broke, Darius arose and hastened to the den. With a trembling voice, he called, "O Daniel, servant of the living God. Is your God whom you serve continually able to deliver you from the lions?" A moment of silence hung heavy as the king held his breath. Then, from the depths of the den, a voice broke forth, "O king, live forever. My God has sent his angel, and he hath shut the lions' mouths, that they have not hurt me, forasmuch as before him innocency was found in me." Overcome with joy, Darius ordered that Daniel be lifted out of the den, and not a scratch was found upon him. The king, realizing the power and faithfulness of God, decreed once again, "In every dominion of my kingdom, men must tremble and fear before the God of Daniel, for he is the living God, and steadfast forever." And thus, the story of Daniel was spread throughout the land, and many in Babylon turned their hearts to seek the Lord. But Daniel, knowing the vision granted to him by the angel, realized that this was but a glimpse of the greater plan of God unwinding before his eyes. Yet still, in silence, he pondered the weight of Gabriel's words, "Great tribulations will come, but endure to the end." As the sun rose higher, casting light upon the earth, a deeper mystery lingered in the air. For although Daniel had been delivered, the threads of prophecy yet awaited their weaving, and the world stood on the cusp of a final revelation. What signs would come to fulfill the promises made, and how would the glory of the Lord be revealed through trials yet unseen? The echoes of God's sovereign plan stirred in the hearts of the faithful, whispering of a day when the Son of Man would return in power and great glory. As the sun bathed Babylon in its golden light, the echoes of angels rejoiced in the heavens. Daniel was exalted in the service of King Darius, a faithful servant of the Most High whose very presence shimmered with the glory of God. Every decree issued in the king's name now bore witness to the unparalleled deliverance wrought by the God of Israel. The kingdom stirred with a renewed spirit, and many began seeking the Lord in earnest, their hearts kindled with hope. Yet shadows crept through the halls, as the cunning conspirators could not abide the decay of their power. Gobel, the chief architect of treachery, rallied his associates in hidden chambers, plotting to extinguish the light of Daniel. "We must strike at the very heart of his faith," he insisted, a serpent's hiss in his voice. Days passed while they conspired, smoldering against the unfolding truth of God's might. But how? One darkened soul questioned, fear mixed with malice. "He is beloved, the king defends him fiercely." "Deceit runs deeper than affection," Gobel hissed with malevolence. "We shall incite rebellion amongst the people, sowing distrust in the king's heart against Daniel's God." So the conspirators unleashed falsehood, stirring doubts and fears among the citizens. Their whispered lies echoed through the marketplace, casting dark shadows over the newfound reverence for the Lord. Unbeknownst to them, every malicious plan merely played into the Almighty's sovereign design, transforming their treachery into the foundation of a greater revelation. As distress gripped the people, Daniel remained unshaken. He sought the Lord's face, faithfully praying, "O Lord, deliver us from the evil one. Let your truth reign and shine brighter yet." His resolve deepened as he walked among the people, teaching them the ways of their covenant God. "The Lord is our refuge and strength, a very present help in trouble," he proclaimed, and many rallied behind his fervent faith. Days turned into weeks, until the orchestrated plots began to bear their bitter fruit. Darius, troubled by discord within his court, faced growing pressure from those who had become emboldened by the deceit. Why grant such fear to the God of Daniel? They rallied the citizens. "Instead, we must unite under one king for our own prosperity." On a fateful day, Darius found himself torn between loyalty to Daniel and veiled whispers that questioned the covenant that had once brought his people to strength. The king wrestled, confusion flooding his heart as he weighed his decisions against the signs and wonders that had borne witness to Daniel's God. But in the stillness, while the conspirators tightened their grip, a new deliverance unfurled amidst the shadows. Daniel awoke one morning, sensing a divine shift approaching. He retreated into prayer and trembled under the weight of visions gifted by the Lord. The angel Gabriel returned, radiant and quick, his voice echoing like thunder. "O Daniel, man of high esteem, the time is at hand for the fulfillment of what has been written. Fear not, for though tribulation awaits, the eternal kingdom is drawing nigh. Those who endure shall receive the crown of life." Daniel's soul surged with understanding. He knew the tides had shifted and that even the trials before him were part of the greater tapestry of God's plan. With his heart ablaze, he continued his witness, proclaiming the truth of the coming Redeemer, knowing that the very seeds of faith he had sown would one day blossom into a grand harvest. As the sun dipped below the horizon, a tumultuous spirit swept through Babylon. The conspirators converged, pushing Darius to a breaking point. "Issue the decree once more," they demanded, cloaked in false sincerity. "For 30 days, no man is to seek any god but you alone." Under pressure, Darius affixed his seal anew despite his heart's resistance. "May your commands bring peace," he murmured in his soul, yet doubt gnawed at him, knowing the peril it posed to his beloved Daniel. But that very night, as Daniel bowed in prayer, the darkness thickened with a heavy presence. He called upon the name of the Lord, and peace wrapped around him like a cloak. The conspirators, armed with malice, witnessed his faith in action and hurried to the king the following day, their hearts rejoicing with deceitful delight. "O king, Daniel defies your decree," they accused, reveling in their apparent victory. Darius's heart sank like a stone. He understood the depth of betrayal and felt a storm sweep through his chest. With a heavy heart, he commanded Daniel to be cast into the lion's den once more, whispering, "May your God whom you serve continually deliver you." And as the stones sealed the entrance and the darkness engulfed Daniel, a divine hush fell over the land. The conspirators believed themselves victorious, but as time passed, the heavens prepared for the unveiling of God's greatest miracle. At dawn, King Darius rushed to the den, filled with anxiety that hung like fog in the air. Daniel, servant of the living God, has your God been able to deliver you? His trembling voice echoed through the void. Then, as if the very heavens themselves had stirred, Daniel's voice rang forth with victory. O King, live forever. My God sent his angel and shut the lions' mouths. They have not hurt me, for I was found innocent before him. The king's heart leaped in joy. With incredulous amazement, he commanded Daniel to be lifted from the den. The people rejoiced and proclaimed the Lord's greatness, for the God of Israel had proven his faithfulness once more. King Darius, transformed by the undeniable power of the Almighty, declared throughout his kingdom, "Let all tremble and fear before the God of Daniel, for he is the living God, whose kingdom shall endure forever." As the revelry spilled through the streets, the preparations for a greater revelation continued as shadows deepened. Daniel, emboldened and renewed, continued to turn toward the heavens, prayerfully anticipating the fullness of God's purpose that spanned beyond Babylon. The echoes of his trial left a legacy that would beckon generations, for within the testimony of Daniel lay the whispers of a greater promise, entwining the stories of faith with the glorious return of the Redeemer. And so, dear friends, let not our hearts grow weary. For the same God that protected Daniel delivers us today. May we remain steadfast in prayer, united as ever, standing firm in the knowledge that our God reigns above it all. He shall forever lead the faithful into the light. Let us share this truth and the message of hope. Now is the time. Subscribe immediately to our channel so you won't miss the next powerful biblical stories. Like this video to help spread God's word through the algorithm. Comment your reflections on how this story has impacted your faith, and don't wait even one more second to share this compelling testimony with at least 5 friends who need to hear God's truth. You need to stay connected to God's word, for in this digital age, we have the unique opportunity to reach more souls for Christ.